Good day and welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at which items are the best in slot to purchase for your spec in terms of the Puzzling Cartel Chips. Obviously I am going to go through this relatively quickly, so I'm going to try my best to go through it as quickly as possible, but of course if you want more information on it, I highly suggest you check out the link in the description. You can go there, get a little bit more information. It will help you out. So let's begin. Right, so let's take a look for Death Knights and let's talk around DKs. So when we are talking about DKs, we are mainly going to be looking for the following. Should hopefully see it up on screen. We'll be going through Blood DK, Frost DK, and Unholy DK. You will see that we have the Tome of Light's Devotion. For Blood DK, we have Best in Slots. For Blood DK, we have the Jaster Diamond for Blood DK, and we have the Eye of Khazan. A lot of the times you're going to see trinkets being chosen and fingers being chosen largely because of their secondary effects. So their equip effects will be very often chosen because of how they affect your performance as BIS. For Frost DK, we're looking at House of Cards, the Jastor Diamond, the Eye of Khazan, Improvised, Seaphorium, Pacemaker, and Best in Slots again. You will see Best in Slots again a lot for a lot of classes, largely because it has that random proc chance to grant you a random secondary stat, as well as the cheat configuration, which allows you to use the item to immediately gain a huge quantity of your second highest secondary stat, which is very, very important. So Best in Slots you'll see a lot. All of these are based on the mythic counterpart, but of course if you want to, you can pick up the heroic counterpart if you feel that way. Unholy DK is House of Cards, Best in Slots, the Jastor Diamond, Eye of Khazan, and Improvised, Seaphorium, Pacemaker. So you will see Jastor Diamond a lot as well. You will also see Improvised, Seaphorium, Pacemaker. Again, a lot of these are going to be common across certain class archetypes. Next, let's talk about Demon Hunter. So Demon Hunter, again, hopefully you'll see on screen. But there is Havoc and Vengeance. For Havoc, we are looking at the Jastor Diamond, Capo's Molten Knuckles, which is something very interesting, different from what we've seen already. So you can see here, Capo's Molten Knuckles. This is largely for the big fire damage and the big dot effect as well. Then we have Improvised Seaphorium Pacemaker, House of Cards, and then Signet of the Priory. That is also a new one that we have yet to see. Signet of the Priory. It's pretty good. Largely, again, that secondary highest stat increase, but also basically allows a proc for other people who have the signet as well. So it's really good if you have an organized group with a very common signet bearer. Then on Vengeance side, we have Tome of Light's Devotion. Again, one you're going to see quite often for tanks. We then have Improvised Seaphorium Pacemaker. Again, one you've already heard of quite a few times. The Jastor Diamond, Capo's Molten Knuckles, and Eye of Khazan. So you can see already, especially for melee classes, the kind of frequency at which certain of these abilities are being referenced. Tome of Light's Devotion is really quite good. So what it does is it increases your armor, and this is something that's very important because it also has a chance to evoke ward damage. If you're an armor dependent class like Demon Hunters are because of Demon Spikes, because of how it works, then this is a good pickup for you. Next we have Druid. Druid has a lot of specs, so please bear with me as we go through it. But we have Balanced Druid, Best in Slots, Jaster Diamond, House of Cards, Mugs Moxie Jug, which is a new one, so it's one we have yet to see. Then we have Eye of Khazan. For Feral Druids, we have the Jaster Diamond, Best in Slots, House of Cards, Improvised Sephorium, Pacemaker, and the Eye of Khazan. So Improvised Sephorium, Pacemaker basically gives your first ability causing your first ability every 60 seconds to trigger explosive adrenaline, granting big crit strike. So crit based classes are going to really like that one. Then if we take a look at Mugs Moxie, this one is a little bit different. So in terms of its usability for classes, it's going to depend a little bit on basically crit strike again. So it's another crit based one, so crit heavy classes are going to probably favor Mugs Moxie, as well as also obviously the Improvised Sephorium Pacemaker. Guardian Druid, Best in Slots, Tome of Light's Devotion, Reverb Radio, and the Jaster Diamond. Now, Reverb Radio is a new one that we have not heard before. Reverb Radio, your spell and abilities have a high chance to hype you up, granting haste. So this is a very haste-centric one. Will also be common on some tanks as well as certain healers. And then Restoration Druids, Jaster Diamond, Mr. Pick-Me-Up, which is also the first time I believe we've heard Mr. Pick-Me-Up being referenced. Eye of Khazan, Carved Blaxian Wax, which is also something new. And then we have Signet of the Priory as well. In terms of the Evoker, we have 3 specs here: Augmentation, Devastation, and Preservation. For Augmentation, we're looking at the Jaster Diamond, Best in Slots, Mugs Moxie Jug, Eye of Khazan, and Synergistic Brewmaster, which is also something we're hearing for the first time. For Devastation Evoker, we have Best in Slots, Mugs, Moxie Jug, House of Cards, Eye of Khazan, and Carved Blaxian Wax. And then for Preservation, we have Jaster Diamond, House of Cards, Eye of Khazan, Mr. Pick-Me-Up, and Carved Blaxian Wax again. If we take a look at some of the newer ones that we've just heard, so obviously one of the major ones is going to be the Carved Blaxian Wax. Your spells have the chance to imbue the wax, causing it to form into a blazing candle, which increases your versatility. This is a nice one for flexi classes like Devastation, Preservation, Augmentation, where the class is being asked to do multiple things. And then obviously on top of that as well, we also heard of the Synergistic Brew Masters for the first time. So the Synergistic Brutalizer. Your spells have a chance to charge the device and request a backfill barrel near your target's location. Damaging the barrel causes it to explode, inflicting 662-621 fire damage split between nearby enemies. So very cool controlled AoE damage spikes. Great for certain classes that maybe don't have damage, like Augmentation Evoker, where you want to be able to give yourself some kind of damage beyond your natural assistance. Next we have Hunter. So we have Beast Mastery Hunter, the Jaster Diamond, Eye of Khazan, Signet of the Priory, Improvised Sephorium Pacemaker, all standard affair that we've seen so far. However, one new one there is Tiny Pal. Tiny Pal, your attacks have a very high chance to contaminate your target with industrial runoff up to 25 times, dealing 1,345 shatter damage per stack every 3 seconds. So it's a great dot to have that can really assist with proccing dot damage, applying dot damage, maintaining dot damage, keeping damage ticking over. For Marksmanship Hunter, we don't see anything really different. Improvised Sephorium Pacemaker, Jaster Diamond, Tiny Pal, House of Cards, and Signet of the Priory. And then for Survival Hunter, we see Jaster Diamond, Improvised Sephorium Pacemaker, House of Cards, Signet of the Priory, Test Pilot's Go Pack, which is something new. And then we have Eye of Khazan. So Test Pilot's Go Pack is pretty interesting. Test Pilot's Go Pack increases your movement speed by 150% and allows you to skim over water, rapidly diminishing over 1 second. It's not necessarily so much the proc effect for Test Pilot's Go Pack that's a huge thing for survival, although mobility is a bit of a thing because of positioning. It's more the fact that it's also haste and mastery stats, which are quite helpful for you, although it's last on the list for a reason. Next, we take a look at Mage. So we have Arcane Mage, Fire Mage, Frost Mage. Most Mage builds will rely on Mug's Moxie Jug due to the crit strike, because that's just how mages are. They want to crit. So Arcane Mage is Mug's Moxie Jug, Neural, Synapse Enhancer, the Jaster Diamond, Eye of Kazan, Entropic, Scardian Core, which is very interesting. For Fire Mage, we have Mug's Moxie Jug, House of Cards, Eye of Kazan, Signet of the Priory, and Carved Blaxican Wax. And then for Frost Mage, we have Eye of Kazan, Mug's Moxie Jug, Mr. Lockenstalk, which is new, Ingenious Mana Battery, which is new, Entropic Scardian Core again, and then Carved Blaxican Wax. So a couple of new ones, especially on the Frost side of things. This is just because of how Frost plays, quite different to some of the other classes. So let's talk about Entropic Scardian. Let's also talk about Ingenious Mana Battery, because both of those are going to be relatively important. Also, we can mention Mr. Lockenstalk, but yeah, so Mr. Lockenstalk, your spells and abilities have a high chance to laze your target for precision blasting, calling in Mr. Lockenstalk to deal 822,000 physical damage to your target. So it's pretty cool. A large reason is because of the haste stat. So haste is key always, but also provides a physical damage source for spellcasters, which is quite rare, allowing you to add a different damage type, especially against certain bosses. Then we have Ingenious Mana Battery and Entropic Scardian Core. So when we are looking at those, Ingenious Mana Battery, channel to store 50,000 mana in the Ingenious Mana Battery up to a max of 201,000. Equip while your mana is above 50%, gain 861 versatility, increased by up to 100% by the mana stored in the battery. While your mana is under 50%, siphon mana into your mana pool. So obviously this is helpful if you are struggling with mana problems. It gives you both stats and also a source of backup mana, as you could be burning through it quite quickly. And then finally we have the Entropic Scardian Core. This one is interesting. Your spells have a chance to destabilize the void energy, releasing a corrupted fragment. Retrieving a fragment briefly infuses you with its power, increasing your intellect by 11,000. Sounds like a lot. Most main stats will be sitting, depending on your class, between 60 to 80,000. So it is around about an 11-12% increase. It is a sizable increase to your main stat, which is a big damage source for you. Next, we're going to take a look at monks. So monks bring in a couple new ones. We have Brewmaster Monk, Mistweaver Monk, Windwalker Monk. Much like Druids, they are split amongst quite a few different specializations. So Brewmaster, you'll see your Tome of Light, your Improvised Forum Pacemakers, your Jaster Diamonds. But then you will see things like Grim Codex and Ringing Ritual Mud, which is very interesting. On the Mistweaver Monk side, we have Mr. Pick Me Up again, Mug's Moxie Jug, Eye of Kazan, Carved Blaxican Wax, Signet of the Priory, which is pretty solid. Then on Windwalker, we have Jaster Diamond, House of Cards, Signet of the Priory, Giga Bank Breaker, and Improvised Sephorium Pacemaker. So we do have a couple interesting new ones. I think overall, ones that could be obviously are different. So Giga Bank Breaker, this one doesn't really do too much. It's just a weapon though, and obviously being a weapon, it's pretty good. So it's just a good weapon, good stats, good makeup for your Windwalker Monk. So it's not got an effect, but it is just a good weapon stat wise, build wise, and everything like that. Then we have Grim Codex, and we also have Ringing Ritual Mud that we want to talk about. So when we talk about, Grim Codex and Ritual Ringing Mud, Grim Codex conjures a Spectral Scythe dealing 1.4 million shadow damage and 200,000 shadow damage in a 15-yard cone. Just a good damage augment booster, as well as giving you a large chunk of main stats. Can help because Brewmaster Monk, compared to other tanks, doesn't deal so much direct damage, so to say. Then we have Ringing Ritual Mud, become Mudborn, absorbing 9.2 million damage and pulsing 455,000 nature damage, split between nearby enemies. Periodic damage you take coalesces into Pungent Mud to feed the ritual, reducing this cooldown. So it's like having another ability. 10 million absorb is a lot. If you look, for example, a tank in the 450 zones will be at about 15 million health. A tank in the 460 should be at about 17 to 18 million. So it is still a sizable chunk, about 50% of your health. So yeah, it's pretty good. Next, we're going to take a look at Paladin. So Paladin, we don't really see anything too new here, except for Titan of the Industry, which we'll talk about. So we have 4 Holy Paladins, Jasta Diamond, Mr. Pick Me Up, Eye of Kazan, Mug's Moxie Jug, and Reverb Radio. For Protection Paladins, we have the Jasta Diamond, Improvised Sephorium Pacemaker, the Devotion of Light or Light's Devotion Tome, House of Cards, and then Titan of the Industry, which is the new one. And then for Ret, we have Jasta Diamond, Best in Slots, Improvised Sephorium Pacemaker, House of Cards, and Eye of Kazan. So a lot of these are standard. You've seen them across a couple of the other classes. Titan of the Industry is a shield. It is a BIS shield. There's the reason why it's there. Its stats are great. It's very, very good. Plus, its equip effect is very solid. Your attacks have a very high chance to contaminate your target with industrial runoff, up to 25 times, dealing 1,345 shatter damage per stack. So very similar to what we've seen before, but Titan of the Industry is a shield and is very, very helpful for that. It's just something that's really good for you, especially if you're running that Prot Pally kind of protection build. We have more of your standard affair for priests. So when it comes to priests, Discipline, Holy, and Shadow, obviously there are 2 healing specs, 1 damage spec, although both healers do play very differently. For Discipline, we have Mr. Pick Me Up, House of Cards, Jasta Diamond, Mug's Moxie Jug, Carved Blackskin Wax. And then for Holy Priest, we have Mr. Pick Me Up, Eye of Kazan, Carved Blackskin Wax, Jasta Diamond, and the Galagio Bottle Service, which is a new one, which we'll talk about. And then for Shadow Priest, we have Jasta Diamond, the Mug's Moxie Jug, House of Cards, Signet of the Priory, and Carved Blackskin Wax. So the Galagio Bottle Service, very, very interesting one. So the Galagio Bottle Service, basically what it does is you will dole out Kajakola Mega Light to injured allies 10 times over 4 seconds, healing them for 1.3 million, and increasing their speed by 245 or 2,455 for 5 seconds. The number of servings you dish out is increased with your haste. So it's a pretty cool one. Obviously it's great for healers. You could grab it in general, but it is very dependent if your healer is a haste stacking healer, which most healers are, I guess. But that will be your kind of primary trinket, largely because it just allows you to have so much additional healing, and it works really, really nicely for those classes that maybe are more singular healers and are looking for a more passive way to heal the rest of the rotation. So it's really good for that, but yeah, aside from that, it's not got a huge amount of use. So you can see here, it is pretty good. Obviously it's a usability, so you do have to actively use it, but it is pretty solid. So for rogues, we don't see too much new or different. Rogue has 3 specs: Assassination, Outlaw, Subtlety. All are DPS, so they're somewhat similar, but there are some ones that are different. So we have Jasta Diamond, Eye of Kazan, House of Cards, Signet of the Priory, and Improvised Sephorium Pacemaker for Assassination Rogue. Then we have Capo's Molten Knuckles, Galliwix's Iron Thumb, which is a new one. We have Z Thug's Hotline, which is also a new one. We have Eye of Kazan and Improvised Sephorium Pacemaker. Then we also have, of course, for Subtlety Rogue, House of Cards, Jester Diamond, Eye of Kazan, Improvised Forum, Pacemaker, and Ravenous Honey Buzzer. Z Thug's Hotline, your ability to chance call a member of the Goon Squad to attack your target for 10 seconds. Gaining Bloodlust or a similar effect summons the whole crew. So this is something that's pretty important. Giving yourself those kind of Bloodlust effects that Outlaw Rogue can give themselves will give you a big DPS boost. Then we also obviously have Gallywix's Iron Thumb. Your attacks have a very high chance to contaminate your target with Industrial Runoff, so that is your dot over time effect. And then we have the Ravenous Honey Buzzer. So the Ravenous Honey Buzzer is fairly simple and straightforward. You call in a Ravenous ally and ride off into the sunset for 15 yards, whichever is closest, inflicting 1.3 million fire damage split between all enemies you ride through. It's an AoE effect, but it's just a great way to add some AoE, especially to Subtlety Rogue, which maybe lacks a little bit. For Shamans, pretty simple stuff. We have the Eye of Kazan, Jester Diamond, Best in Slots, the Big Earner's Bludger, and Titan of the Industry. Titan of the Industry we've been through before, but Big Earner's Bludgeon is a new one, which then gets followed by House of Cards. For Enhancement Shaman, we have Jester Diamond, Improvised Forum, Pacemaker, House of Cards, Eye of Kazan, and Gatorwix's Iron Thumb. And then for Restoration, we have Mr. Pick Me Up, Eye of Kazan, Mugs, Moxie Jugs, Best in Slot, and Titan of the Industry. You'll notice that pretty much any shield user is using Titan of the Industry. It is probably the BIS shield overall. For Enhancement Shaman, for Elemental Shaman, you will see Big Earner's Bludgeon, largely because of the dot damage, but also just high item level, good stats, Critical Strike, and Mastery, which is, again, pretty solid and pretty good. Next, we'll look at Warlock. So Warlock has 3 specs: Affliction, Demonology, and Destruction. Nothing here that's really different from what we've seen, barring Styx's Metal Detector. House of Cards, Mugs Moxie, Jester Diamond, Sigurd Priory, and Entropic's Guardian Core for the Affliction Warlock. Demonology Warlock is House of Cards, Mugs Moxie Jug, Jester Diamond, Styx Metal Detector, and Eye of Kazan. And Destruction Warlock is House of Cards, Mugs Moxie Jug, Jester Diamond, Sigurd Priory, and Entropic Guardian Core. So again, nothing too crazy that we have not seen, but the new one is the Styx's Metal Detector. So this is the only one that's slightly different. This is for Demonology, and it is just a dagger. It's just a good BIS dagger. So good stats, high item level. Dagger is very important. So yeah, stats, damage wise for spells. So yeah. So we have finally, last but not least, the Warrior. Now Warrior has Arms, Fury, and Protection, 2 DPS, 1 tanking slot, and there's nothing here that you haven't seen except for Capital Punisher. For Arms Warrior, it's Best in Slots, Jester Diamond, House of Cards, Eye of Kazan, and Improvised Forum Pacemaker. For Fury Warrior, we have Best in Slots, Jester Diamond, Eye of Kazan, or House of Cards is fine, Mr. Lock and Stalk, Improvised Forum Pacemaker, and Capital Punisher, that's the new one. And then obviously for Protection Warrior, we have Titan of the Industry, the Shield. We have House of Cards, Jester Diamond, Improvised Forum Pacemaker, and Tome of Light's Devotion. Obviously, you'll see Titan of the Industry, again, as always. Then, Capital Punisher is a new one. It is a 2-handed mace. So, this one, just, again, stats. Basically, that's about it. Stats, high item level, good equip skill. Nothing more to explain. And that's that. That is it in terms of the BIS items to buy with your Puzzling Cartel Chips. Hopefully this has helped you out. And As always, if you need any more assistance, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.